All right. Welcome, everyone, back to another glorious edition of the Fandom Effect podcast. As always, I am your Sherpa of Fandom, the Bushido Geek, unfortunately joined by Devin yet again. Can't quite seem to just, I don't know. I don't get how he keeps getting the links when I directly do not send them to you.
I'm that
not
guy.
sure how you.
I'm that guy from Hey Arnold that always pops up behind Helga, Brain. I'm always him, just sitting there behind you,
I
waiting.
have not seen Hey Arnold in such a long time. I mean, like obviously, I watched it growing up, but I have not seen that show in Jesus. I don't even want to probably admit how long it's been since I've seen that show.
So what's going on, buddy?
Not much, man. Mortal Kombat trailer dropped, and they released some stuff from that game. So I'm pretty excited about that. It looks pretty sweet. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I'm super stoked for that. I mean, the choreography and stuff looks completely intense, and the way they adjusted it from the original movies.
Well, considering we haven't really done much with Mortal Kombat since, Get Over Here, with Scorpio's skull fake on fire. I mean,
yeah. So, now I heard we have a special person with us today.
We do, because we're never alone. I mean, not to get all philosophical and being never truly alone, but it stands true because we're not actually alone right now. We are joined by a man who's, by his own admission, has broken nearly every bone in his body. A crazy stuntman, actor, director, such movies as Action USA, which is just came out with a new, I guess, is it remake? Is that what you? It's remake, right?
Yeah, it's restoration, new restoration.
Right, new restoration.
Not a remake, yeah.
Okay. And has also directed a lot of different things, including a movie called Fall Guy, the Jon Stewart story, along with quite a few episodes of the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Obviously, everyone listening knows that me and Devin have probably talked in excess about how much we've watched that show. But John, appreciate you taking the time to join us here today. I know we were talking a little bit before we hit record here, but how's life been treating you with COVID and all the craziness going on?
It's been good. I've been keeping busy. I'm here in Florida, West Palm Beach, so I've been working away down here.
That Very must cool. Suck, dealing with that nice right. warm weather.
Darn Florida weather. Oh man.
Yeah, it was cold last week. It was in the 50s, so everybody was freezing down here.
Cold in the 50s. Wow. I'll take it where it's 0 up here and be like,
yeah. Or like the fact that it was so cold last week that my remote start for my car physically could not work because it was so cold the connection wasn't working.
Yeah, I grew up in Boston, so I know what you mean.
Oh, okay.
So I moved to LA.
Yeah, then you do for sure.
So, John, tell us a little bit more about yourself. Obviously, our intro doesn't do you quite justice. Besides, the broken bones and everything, how did you get started being a stuntman?
Well, since I was 10 years old and watched a John Wayne movie, I knew what I wanted to do. And so when I was 17, I started doing a little bit of work in Boston, doubling Matt Dillon on a film, and did another 2 or 3 pictures there, and then moved to LA. I was about 18, and that's when I started my stunt career.
Now, what is the craziest thing that you've either been thrown off of or jumped off of?
Well, I did a fall. At the time, it was a world's record for a movie called Cold Steel with Sharon Stone. I was doubling Jonathan Banks, where I got lit on fire and then thrown off a 16-story building and at the end of the movie. So at the time, that was a big deal. Now 16 stories, there's a few guys have been higher than that, but it's still pretty high.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
So, how do they actually obviously they wear like a flame retardant suit, but like, how does it come up just like, hey, we're going to light you on fire? And
well, Back in those days in the '80s, they would just give me scripts, and I would write. I would write all the action, and they didn't have any action. I'd write the car chases, and I wrote this scene into it. And that's how I got started in directing. Eventually, they started letting me direct it. But um, actually, we did that scene in 2 days. The first day, I had a fire suit, and we did the burn, where Sharon lights me on fire. I did like a minute and a half burn. And the next day we went back and did the fall, but I didn't want to wear a fire suit for the fall because I want to be able. You got to be able to move your body, land on your back, and twist around, and all that good stuff. So I actually didn't wear a fire suit for the second burn off the building. What I was worried about is staying on fire. I didn't want to jump off from 16 stories and the fire gets put out halfway down. So I actually made sure I was good and cooking, stood there for like 30 seconds, and then I jumped, and it was, and I was on fire the whole way down until I hit the airbag. But I wore some like the long john underwear you buy at Sears, the cotton ones, and I soaked them in this thing called fire gel. It's a gel. You don't have a lot of time with it, but it's only going to take 3 or 4 seconds to hit the bag, so it wasn't very long anyway. Including the time I was actually burning before I left. So I didn't even use a suit on that. I just used the long johns with some Zell gel on it, so I could move freely in the air.
Now, I've heard that like that gel is similar to. I heard that this is just me hearing stuff. It's similar to almost like having like hand sanitizer and lighting that on fire. And it's just burning away the alcohol that's inside that. Is that similar, or is there like what goes into that?
Yeah, that's a different thing you're talking about. That's when you actually put it on your hand. I actually did a TV interview where I lit my bare hands on fire with that stuff, and you only have so much time. What this is, I soaked it. I soaked the underwear in Zell gel. I wore those, and I put the overalls over them, and then used rubber cement all over my body to actually light on fire.
Oh, okay.
So we don't use gasoline. We use what they call rubber cement because you kind of paint it on, it kind of stays there, and it doesn't drip. You could really put it on the front, the back, wherever you want the fire to be. You kind of paint it on. Whereas gasoline is it's just soaking wet and it does what it wants to do. This you have a little bit more control.
I gotcha. Now, when it comes to some of your stunts and stuff, is there was there ever like a stunt that you're just like, holy cow, I can't believe I just did that? Like that shock moment that comes after it.
Yeah, that one where I I think the movie's called the hell's the name of the movie? I don't remember the name of the movie, but I had to crash a motorcycle on a station wagon, and about 70 miles an hour, and they had like 50 gallons of gas, and they blew it up when I hit it, and I had 100 feet of boxes to land and set up after the car, and actually I hit it so fast. And the explosion was so big, it threw me 30 feet in the air, and I actually went about 130 feet and missed all the boxes, went right to the cement.
Oof.
And when I landed, it broke my femur in half, and my leg was behind my head, which is really freaking the crowd. There's actually a scene in Fall Guy where Jason Frank we recreate that scene. We had to bury his one of his legs in the ground with a dummy leg going behind him to get the exact effect, and people see the movie and see, oh, that's fake, and that's because that wasn't fake. It actually happened exactly the way we filmed it, but it just looks so crazy when you see someone laying there with the leg pointing the opposite direction. And and this is in the middle of Moab, Utah, and I think we shot around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I didn't even make it to a hospital to Salt Lake City till about 8 o'clock that night. My leg was all messed up like that.
Jeez. I mean, hey, you're still walking. Today, somehow.
Still kicking that beat when you're playing guitar, man.
Yeah, they put a metal rod in there and wired my kneecap and hip all up.
So basically, what I mean at this point in your body, I mean, do you just when you go through an airport, do you just tell them instantly, like, "Hey, I'm full of metal"?
Yeah, they
just jump on a conveyor belt for you. Now, you said that Jason David Frank played you in your movie Fall Guys. Now, this isn't the first time you got to work with Jason David Frank. Got to work with him in the first season of Power Rangers as well. How was it directing a show such as that?
Well, at the time when we were doing it, we didn't even know it was popular. I'll tell you a funny story. And in fact, I just found the footage on YouTube and I posted it on my Facebook. We didn't even know the show was popular. We were doing this thing for, I don't know, 6 months or 7 months. I don't remember how long. And then Universal called us to do a live appearance up there on a Friday afternoon. So I remember where I was riding up with the actors in the back of a limo and a producer, Ron Hadar, and we were going down to 101 and it was jammed. It was blocked. We didn't know what was going on. So we finally got diverted off the freeway there and we started going up to Universal. And going up to Universal, I don't know if you've ever been there in LA. It's a big, huge hill that goes up there. There was only one way in there to the gate.
Yeah. I wish.
Yeah. By Lancashire, there was like 35,000 people at the gates. And I'm going to the producer. I'm like, man, the Stones must be playing here tonight. Maybe they'll give us some free tickets or something. I didn't know what was going on. None of us did, And then we get out of the car, and then there was 35,000 screaming mothers and kids coming at us. And Universal brought the tram back and threw everybody in the back of the tram, took us backstage. But until then, we didn't really even know the show was popular. We didn't know people even watching it until that day. Then all of a sudden, it took off. The rest is history.
So, I mean, what was it almost like to be able to, I mean, obviously you knew it wasn't that popular at the time, but as you're directing this, I mean, almost having this, I want to say like Japanese feel to it, because I guess that's what we know, like some of the stuff was based off of. What was it like to film such a product like this?
Yeah, trust me, I know about that stuff. Yeah, the Japanese would send us this crazy looking Godzilla type footage every week, and we'd have to write that into an episode, and we'd film everything around it, the actors in the fight scenes and the putties and all that stuff. But the monster looking stuff, that came from Japan. We didn't have to film any of that. We just wrote the scripts around it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's very
You mean there's
interesting.
not giant monsters that are attacking Power Rangers?
Yeah. No, thank God we didn't have to do that. We did the putties and Rita and Lord Zed and all that kind of stuff and everything else. But the crazy looking, Godzilla type looking footage that came from Japan.
Oh,
okay.
I totally thought that would be something like you guys just all filmed it all somewhere and just like on a sound stage. There's just like two dudes dressed up in like big foam outfits fighting each other. So that's actually pretty funny that you guys were able to transfer it over.
Yeah, we had enough problem with like Lord Zed's costume. I remember that was a nightmare. He'd fall apart every other take, so we're constantly putting him back together.
Now, Mark, I didn't know if you got a chance to see, but John was actually in a little famous cult classic called Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
I did. I did stunts with a certain, other guy that's a little well known for, I don't know, one thing, I guess.
So tell us, John, what was it like to be on a movie that's now a cult classic?
Oh yeah, Ferris was a fun shoot. I mean, that was, not all movies you go out there looking the Grim Reaper in the face. That was a movie where I was doubling Cameron in the swimming pool, pretending he was drowning or whatever. And so I spent 3 days hanging about a jacuzzi with that hot looking chick in the movie. I forget her name, but yeah, just there. But yeah, that was a great gig, man, for sure.
Now we've transferred from, you've done stunts, you've done acting, and you've also done directing. So besides your own movie, you in Action USA, tell us what it was like to kind of get into like a director's feel from being a stunt man. Like, how was it to change roles like that?
Well, I never planned on directing. I was, like I said, when I was young, I just wanted to do stunts. But back in those days, a lot of the directors didn't know how to film action. So they were relying on me to do it. And what happened was I was directing a lot of second units, like Cold Steel and all Cyclone and all those movies back then, and Children of the Corn and Leprechaun and all that stuff. And then from directing all the second units, they finally just said, hey, why don't you just direct the whole damn movie, And that's what I did. I got hurt and I was healing, and that's when I wrote Action USA, the script for it while I was healing. And my next door neighbor, who was not in the movie business, he owned a Porsche dealership. His name was Wolfram Berger. He asked me what I was doing. He knew I was hurt, and he didn't really know me too well, but he knew me, but we weren't friends. But he see me out in my wheelchair every day healing, and I said, "Well, I'm writing the script." He goes, "Well, you got the money to do it?" I said, "No, I don't have any money to do it. I'm just writing the script." He goes, "I'll get you the money." I'm thinking, "Yeah, sure." We've done that many times. Well, what happened was about 2 months later, he comes over to the house. He goes, "I got the money." He owned a Porsche dealership in the Valley, Sanford in the Valley, and I guess he mortgaged it and got like $500,000. So let's go do the movie. And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" So we went. I was going to do it in L.A., and then a friend of mine, Tom Calloway, said, "Let's go. Why don't we do it in Texas?" So I met with the producer from Texas, and we ended up shooting there. And that movie, I don't know if you guys have ever seen it or seen a trailer. We would have never got that kind of footage here in LA for the budget we had on that. So when I got to Texas, basically, I found out they gave me a house, gas stations, helicopters, everything you can imagine. So I totally rewrote the script on the spot there, and that's why the movie turned out like it did. Because we shot it in Waco, Texas, we never would have got that bang for our buck here in LA.
Right, and I know you told us a story off the air, but Action USA, as we kind of mentioned earlier, it just came out like again after almost 4 decades. And so, would you mind kind of, now that we're on the air, retelling what happened with like Action USA getting that kind of like re-release almost like 4 decades later?
Well, yeah, what happened was it came out back in '89 and it did well. It did video, straight to video, and foreign sales and all that stuff. But I never got a TV sale on any of that kind of stuff. And everybody kind of forgot about it. I went to do films. Like I said, the producer film wasn't even in the movie business. And Tommy Calloway was doing a million films and Power Rangers, and we did all that stuff. So we kind of just forgot about it. It had its little run. That was it. Well, there was someone had a little, and it's always had a little cult following all these years. I'd always get emails, "Hey, we're doing a screening in Canada or in New York, blah, blah, blah. Can we screen it in this bar?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, no problem. I don't care." So someone had a backyard screening, and they're friends with Tim League and Quentin Tarantino. And they gave him actually a VHS tape. Well, first of all, I got a phone call from Tim League, who owns Alamo Drafthouse Theaters. I thought it was a prank call. I didn't even know. I didn't know what was going on because it's been 40 years later. And what happened was somebody at the little backyard screening fell in love with it, and they actually gave them, him and Quentin, a VHS tape of it, because that's all we had of it. That's all they had back then. And he called up and he loved the film. And he goes, "Hey, they liked it because there was no CGI, no bullshit, no computers, none of that crap. All straightforward action, just a tongue-in-cheek, eat some popcorn, have a good time, car chases movie." And so they said, "We want to release it in theaters, Walmart and DVD and all the social media, everything." I'm like, "Sure, go right ahead." And then COVID hit, so I thought, okay, this deal's going to be dead in the water. But a few months, like 3 or 4 months ago, they put it out. They put it all across the United States in theaters, drive-ins, online, virtual, and they have DVD. They even made a special VHS re-release of it. And they spent a ton of money restoring in 4K, you know what I mean? And making it, for the theaters nowadays and getting the quality up. They didn't touch anything in the movie. They didn't edit anything like that. They wanted to keep that all true. They just wanted to make it, playable for today's, market in theaters. And so they did a great job in the restoration, So that just recently happened, You go online, Google Action USA movie, it will come up everywhere. So, and it's getting a lot of views, and I'm glad it's getting a new audience. You know what I mean? Because it lay dormant all these years, and it's getting a lot of hype now, which it should have gotten back then, but it didn't. So I'm glad. I forget the 2 guys' names that took it to Tim League, but I'm glad they did, and Tim jumped on it and did what he did.
Now, have you seen the movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Yes.
Do you ever think that Quentin Tarantino kind of based some of Brad Pitt's character after you?
After me? No, he didn't base him after me. He based Brad Pitt's character off of a stunt guy called Hal Needham, which was a legend. I'm sure it was up to Hal. Quentin loves these old movies with real stuff, and he's done another movie. I forget the name of it, but something about a stunt guy. Another movie about a stunt guy. He loves the stunt guys. He likes the old time stunt guys like Buddy Joe Hooker. But they had want to him and Tim Lee and Quentin are trying to get the Academy Awards, make a award for it, a category, So they've been heavily pressuring them to do that for a couple of years now. But on that character, it was based on, I'm pretty sure it was Hal Needham.
Okay. I just thought if he loves your work, might as well ask the question, right? So,
he's going to run it. Quentin owns a theater. He's going to run it in his theater when things open back up in LA.
Oh, okay.
Very cool. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens when things kind of do open back up. Like, it was just so much to actually open up with. You gotta imagine there's just a huge backlog of stuff. John, I gotta ask. I mean, obviously we kind of mentioned you've done a lot of different things, all over the course. Is there anything in particular that you kind of look back at over the course of your career that you just see as like a career highlight? Like it could be the simplest thing. It doesn't have to be a lot of the work you've done on iconic movies. But is there anything to you that stands out in your career?
I don't know. I have a lot of favorite stunts I did. I mean, back in those days, I was, like I said, they pretty much gave me the script and told me to write what I want, and they would do it. They would give me the budget to do it. So I don't know. Each kind of movie had its own little special thing that I liked, about it. I think probably Action USA was, and I'm not trying to promote that because it just came out, but that movie had so much stunts and we had so much fun doing that. I don't think they could. And we shot the whole movie in 18 days. And we just had a good crew, because I used my same crew that I've been working with for about 5 or 6 years prior to that, my same DP. So we had a really good team on that, and everything. My effects guy, and then Waco being so generous and giving me houses to blow up, and actually a helicopter scene in there where the FAA said, you're nuts, you can't shoot the scene, because I wanted to have a guy hanging off the helicopter upside down out of it, and I wanted the helicopter was chasing a Porsche with a girl hanging out of the door, but I wanted to shoot it in between the buildings, lower than the buildings, and through downtown. And the FAA said, you're crazy, you can't do that unless you shut down the whole town. So, I have the saying, whenever you go to a town, find the most important person in there and put them in your movie. So that's what we did, I think I had the mayor's daughter or whatever, but they actually shut down the whole city of Waco downtown so I could actually film that scene in the morning. And I had cameras. I think I had like 7 or 8 cameras. I had cameras on buildings, cameras on the car, cameras out of the helicopter looking down, and that's how we get that shot. So, there's been a lot of little stories like that. I was in Yugoslavia when actually the war started in the 90s, and they captured my crew, and I actually got captured at gunpoint and held for a little bit when Belgrade and Dubrovnik and all that started their fighting. I don't know if you heard about you guys are too young about the Yugoslavia war, but that was a crazy time over there.
That's where my grandfather's from. So
yeah, I was doubling David Essex at the time. I don't know if you know him. He did that song "Rock On."
Yeah.
Well, he was an actor in this film, and then we were walking out. We just had breakfast, walking out of our hotel, and they blew up the hotel. And literally, our tour bus got stopped in the middle of going from Belgrade to Dubrovnik, and they came in, and all the Yugoslavians that were on there that we've been working with for 6 months, they actually took them off the bus to go fight in this war.
Wow.
It was
That's
nuts.
Insane.
Yeah. They had Russian. I had smoked at the time, and I was directing a scene in this cave on the border of Hungary, and I wanted to go have a cigarette. So it was huge underground caves, and as I was walking down, a bomb went off, and the lights went off that they had in the cave. So, long story short, I walked out the wrong entrance and ended up Hungary with some soldiers there, and they didn't. I had long hair and a ski jacket on, smoking a Marlboro cigarette, and these 17-year-old soldiers had me at gunpoint. And I knew one word, Kaskadao, which means stunt guy in Russian. And they're like, what the hell is this dude doing here in the middle of a war? There was Russian MiGs going over, blowing crap up. So they held me for a couple of hours and actually gave them some Marlboro cigarettes, which I got in trouble for later because that's propaganda. I got to even pose with the soldiers after a while. One of the liaisons finally found me like about 2 hours later, explained what was going on. And then I told my DP, I said, get the 2C out there, which is a small handheld camera, 16 millimeter camera. I said, get this 35 millimeter. I'm sorry. I said, get this camera out there. We got real Russian MiGs blowing crap up. I want to get this on film. So I ended up shooting a lot of that war right there, right then and there in the spot. I always said that that footage that I got behind the scenes and all the crazy stuff that happened over there would have been better than the movie.
Jeez. Well, it kind of to try to turn away from that story.
On the super happy note of that.
Now, me and Mark, we bounce movie videos that we find online back and forth, and one of the groups are Corridor Crew, and they always do what they call Stuntman React, and they deal with different movie stunts, things like that. What do you think about the technology that they have created now for these stuntmen as the years go on?
I hate it. You talking about CGI?
No. So much like you have a magic carpet that gets pulled behind cars to help them actually like be able to run as fast, like look like they're running faster. And
that stuff's good because
just
that's technology. Remember when we were back doing stunts? I broke my back twice because we were figuring crap out back then in the day, and before they had all these great jump seats and hang harnesses that hang us from the the hood, the roof of the car and stuff. We were doing this stuff trial and error. There was no school for this, so no store you can go. We were figuring this stuff out as we went along, and that's what a lot of guys back then were breaking their backs. Now they come a long way. They got great jump seats and all that, so it's a lot safer. In fact, I had invented I took one of the race. I didn't invent it, but I invented a version. Remember the old race hoods that you wear, the race car drivers that have an open face,
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, what I did, because back in the old days, you ever see a guy on fire? He had the big old head, and that's because they had this big old protective mask on, and it made his head look huge. Well, I had an idea once. Well, let me get a few, because they're double layers, those Nomex hoods. So I said, let me put 3 of them together, which would be like 6 layers, which is pretty thin still. And then I would sew the nose and the eye where it comes together. I'd sew that up so there's no mouth, just 2 little eye holes, and then we put some Pyrex eyes in there. And so I went to Filler Racing Products, and then they said, well, as long as you don't sue us, I had to sign something, and I used it, and it worked out great, and did a full burn, and this is fucking years ago, and didn't have the big old head on, and it looked really good. So now probably every stunt guy has one of those in his bag, because Filler they started making them, because some guy go, hey, where'd you get that? I said, well, I had Filler make it, I designed it. So, and then another stunt guy would buy it, and then they started putting it on the shelf. So I think everybody has one now, but you had to kind of invent this stuff up, as you went along, and there's some great guys like Lane Levitt. He was in the business. He's a good stunt guy, and he was developing the air rams and ratchets and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of good riggers out there and inventors out there. Just come a long way. I don't like the CGI, but I like all the other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, so like we can kind of understand why you probably don't like the CGI is because it's essentially taking away from what the stuntman was designed to be and what he does, and by taking the CGI and adding it in there, it kind of doesn't work his stunts as much anymore.
Well, it looks fake. You can have anybody do anything now. It's no magic to it. You know what I mean? It's just like taking. I like the old like Smokey and the Bandits and the Hoopers and those kind of movies for the stunts, the real car chases. I was never a big fan of sci-fi movies anyway, which is great. CGI is great for that stuff, but Fast and Furious. And you mentioned an interview that you read about Action USA, and I didn't read that one, but I read one recently when it came out, and I thought it was a great interview, a great report. It said Action USA was one of the movies that was the Bible for Fast and Furious. You know what I mean? Which is pretty cool.
Well, I mean, I bet you Action USA is less about their family and trying to rob something and more about their car chases and action like that. But
and 9 movies to explain it. Or 8 or 9. I don't know. I've lost count.
They're at 9 now, but yeah.
I've lost count at this point. No, I was just going to say, John, a quick transition here. I know I want to make sure we talk about this. So in addition to everything else we're talking about, you are also in a band, a Latin band called, I'm sorry if I pronounce this wrong, but Juliana.
Yeah, Juliana. Yeah, I've always had a passion for music, and I've always written music. In fact, I wrote the title song in Fall Guy, "Hold On to Memories That Will Ever Be." I wrote that song, and that was my first song I ever put into a film. So I always loved writing music. So I picked up the guitar, and just some of this Latin stuff started coming out of me, and I was writing. And I met this girl down here. She sings Latin, and we formed this about 6 years ago. We made a song called "Tu Sabor," and it kind of took off with the press, and they liked it. And long story short, we just signed a record deal last month, and this all happened really quick. So that's what I've mainly been doing now. We got I think we got 8 songs we've recorded, and when the world opens up, hopefully we'll be touring soon.
So, what was the initial reaction from like thinking like, okay, I'm going from doing movie stunts my whole life to now I'm becoming a rock star? Like, was that just
Well,
like,
yeah, every kid wants to be a rock star, but the funny thing is, and I'll backstory it a little bit. When I wrote the song for Fall Guy, "Hold On to Memories," one of the girls from American Idol, Kristen McNamara, heard it, and she came out, and she was in LA, and I met with her and wrote a couple of songs. And remember, I never played in a bar. I never played in front of 5 people. I just did it for myself. I didn't even have a band when I wrote that song. A friend of mine introduced me to the Righteous Brothers band, and they were my band for that first song. So, but when Kristen came out, she had wrote some stuff. I wrote some songs with her, rather. And then when she went back to Nashville, she was friends with John Rich from Big and Rich, and she showed some of the stuff to him. He liked it. So anyway, I got a phone call. This girl was 21 at the time. And I got a phone call. I'm going to pull over here because I don't have any reception in my house.
you're good?
She said, "Hey, we're going to go tour Big and Rich." And I'm like, "What? You kidding me?" I said, "Okay, I'm there." So my first gig, so to speak, was in front of like 20,000 people in a big amphitheater. You know what I mean? It was crazy. I walked out there and I was like, I remember thinking, look at all these people. I hope I remember the chords. I hope I don't freeze up. I don't know what I was thinking. Because stunts, you're never in front of people. It's all behind the camera. But I'm like, yeah, why should I be scared? I've jumped off a 16-story buildings. This is nothing. So we went out there and we were all doing it. So it gives you a rush. I love playing in front of a live audience. It gives you a rush. And then touring is sort of like doing a movie. A movie, you go into a town or a country, and you're there for a few months, and you set up and you do. Touring is the same thing. You fly in, you go to a radio station, you do the promo, you go to sound check, go to your hotel, check in, go back and do the gig, and start all over again. So it's like doing the same thing as a movie, except you do one a night. You know what I mean? It's like
Right.
8 months. So I love it. I love it. And I'll still do movies and I'll still do all that stuff, but I definitely like the music stuff. And as long as I'm writing stuff that they like, then I'll keep doing it.
Now you say that you still love movies. Now, do you think your stunt years are way behind you now, or do you think that one day you'll eventually get back into that driver's seat?
Well, no, I would do driving. I'm not going to do any more huge high falls or any of that kind of stuff. But I'll still do. I mean, I'm 60 now, so I can still drive, and do car chases and direct and all that for sure. But the big falls, they're done. I gotta give my body a break. Sure,
Yeah, just on a rough guess, how many bones total do you think you broke over the course of your career?
I'm not sure. 2 broken backs, broken neck, a broken femur, broken knee, wrist, a few fingers. I don't know, what, about 7, 8? But it wasn't all in 1 year. Like anything, if you're playing football for 20 years, you're going to get hurt over the course of your 20 years. Same with stunts. If you're doing big stunts over the course of 20, 30 years, you're going to get hurt. There's no way around it. You're going to get beat up.
Right.
There's no way around that stuff, and I was the type of stunt guy back then. I was, an average week for me, and this is not kidding you. I was doing 3-4 movies at a time when I was coordinating and doing. I would do one movie during the day. I'd do another movie at night, a night shoot like a Leprechaun or Children. I go back to arm response during the day, and this went on. Sometimes I'd leave my house on a Monday and not get back till the following Sunday. And this is shooting in town, so an average day for me would be. I remember one day I did a car jump over a flatbed truck. A couple hours later, I did a pipe ramp, which where they hit a pipe ramp, the corkscrews through the air. Then I went on that night and did a big fire burn, for I think it was I don't remember the name of the movie. It was another horror film. So I was doing big stuff every day back then. So to only get hurt as much as I did, I think that's pretty good, you know?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I would say so.
So we're gonna change it up a little bit, Anya, and ask you a few questions from our side of the table. Now, growing up and stuff, was there any special fandoms that you were really into, and besides obviously like stunt performance and stuff, was there any other things that you were a really big fan of?
Well, growing up, you mean music? I was into music, and I was into riding dirt bikes and stuff like that.
Okay.
I wasn't really too much into school and all that stuff. I mean, our school, we grew up in Boston and segregation and the riots, so we went to school with nothing but fighting all the time.
Makes sense. Now, when you say music, do you think do you think your influence from the music that you listened to as a kid has made you into the musician you are today, or do you feel like that's completely changed as time went on?
No, you know what? I always liked like Bon Jovi and Aerosmith and Rolling Stones, like everybody did. But the guy who taught me how to guitar was my next door neighbor named Ricardo. I was 10 years old. He taught me how to play. I'd go over his house after school and he'd show me chords. And he didn't teach me how to play Latin, but he played it. I think it rubbed off on me. I think that's where I got the Latin kind of feel, that the stuff I'm writing now after all these years, because I never heard it anyplace else but him, you know, and he was teaching me. And
Right.
he could play wonderful. I mean, I'm not a shredder. I can't play like Eddie Van Halen. I'm not a shredder. I play well enough to write my own stuff. You know what I mean?
So you feel kind of like like Mr. Santana up there on the guitar, though?
No, I'm not as good as him. He's the lead guy. I mostly play. I play rhythm guitar, and I write the songs on guitar and I write the melodies on guitar. Santana is just, he's awesome, obviously. So
Yeah.
we have another lead guitar player in our group. And if anybody wants to hear the music, it's at julianamusic.com. If they want to go hear, all the songs are free. You can download them. We don't charge anything for the songs. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
So anybody can go download them if they like them. And there's a lot of good stuff. We do some English and we do some Latin, mostly Latin, but we do have a couple of English songs.
Awesome.
Very cool. And of course, everyone listening knows that any link or anything that gets mentioned, whether it's just your first time listening or whether you're a long time listener, anything that gets mentioned in any way, of course, we'll make sure to post it along with everybody.
Yeah. And I've already went through and posted trailers both to Fall Guys and Action USA on our Facebook page for those listening. If you want to check out what those movies are about, that's on there for just to get an idea on what some of John's work is and what he's done. Now, John, is there a movie out there that if you could go back that you would love to be part of?
Oh, for sure. There's a movie called Hooper with Burt Reynolds in it. He played a stunt guy. And the guy we were talking about earlier, Hal Needham, that was based, I think, the character, but Brad Pitt, he actually directed it. He used to live with Burt. He was friends with Burt. But it was called Hooper. And that was a great movie. I would have loved to have been a part of that. I was just getting started at that point. I don't think I was even in Hollywood at that time. I'd come out like the next year. But I would have loved to be a part of that.
Oh, for sure.
Definitely would have been a pretty fun movie to be a part of.
Yeah, there was so many great stunt guys in that. Buddy Joe Hooker, like I say, Needham directed it, and all the big time guys, they were in that. It was like, that was the movie that brought stunt people to the public life, No one really knew about them to that movie.
Yeah, I think it's something that's underrated, because when you watch movies, you watch TV shows, and all this stuff. I don't think you think about how much, like, even just from a stuntman standpoint, like how much those work that those guys have to do to get this stuff filmed, especially when you're talking about like a crazy action movie or something like that. Like, I mean, you've mentioned some of the stunts that you've done yourself, and I think it's interesting for people to be able to hear from like the other side of the story.
Yeah, and Hooper was great because that showed they actually showed a lot of how it was done, set up, a lot of behind the scenes. And I did the same thing in Fall Guy. I showed a lot of behind the scenes stuff too.
Oh yeah, of course. And it's always cool when you are able to kind of like see like you said, the behind the scenes, what got this to being able to make, like what went into this, what some of the work that guys had to do to get this stuff done. It's always really interesting when you're able to hear this kind of stuff. And that's why I was pretty excited, when I was telling Devin, like, hey, we're talking to Jon Stewart today. Like, we both were like, you've done so much. There's so many different, from a fandom standpoint, obviously you've got cult classic iconic movies and your work as a director on just a lot of different things, Power Rangers and various other titles and action movies. I mean, there were so many different fandoms and different things that we could dive into. It was pretty exciting for us to be able to get a chance to talk to you. So I definitely want to thank you again for taking the time to come on and talk to us and just kind of like share some of your stories,
Hey, I appreciate it. Yeah, anytime, man. Feel free.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, like everyone, we've been mentioned a couple times, not only check out Juliana music, the John's band, and also check out the Action USA, both the old one and the new one as well. And maybe let us know what you think of the comparison, between the old and the new. And there's lots of other, so many titles. Go back and rewatch Power Rangers. I just got done rewatching it with my 3-year-old son probably 4 or 5 months ago. So I have all those episodes pretty fresh in my brain. So there's a lot you can do.
Mighty Morphin, John, is like, to this day, it still holds up better than half the new ones. Like, I will go back and watch it, and it's just like, it just takes you back to that childhood of going back, having the plastic sword in your hand, and like doing the movements. And it's, even to see some of these people on TikTok, they're still reliving their childhood of the Mighty Morphin series.
Hey, it's so crazy. I know. I got to play one of them. I just seen the footage a while back where I forget the name of the episode was when Kimberly got pricked by the flower and turned her mean.
Yep.
Blossom of Doom or something. I played the guy with the long hair that comes in and puts the plant in there where she gets pricked. So that was my cameo in the show.
Oh, that's awesome.
Very cool. Very cool. You're like, no, I'm going in this scene right now.
Yeah, I got
this.
Once I do famous, I said I gotta be in one scene. It was my cameo. And that was perfect. I didn't have to say anything.
Go in there, do the flower thing, and you're good to go.
So John, since we're going to start wrapping up here,
Cool.
Is there some social media aspect or any websites that you would like to plug and let our audience know about?
Like I said, the music is JULIANA, JulianaMusic.com. And once you get there, like I said, it has all songs on it, has all the social media links in there. It has Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all that. And then for Action USA, anybody can Google Action USA movie and find out where to get it. It's on DVD now. They just had like the special editions coming out with the posters and all that. So they're doing pre-orders right now. Like I said, just did a run in theaters and drive-ins and all that stuff. And it's actually going to go back to film theaters once things open up more. But they did release a special edition that it has a lot of commentaries and interviews with me and the cast and stuff. So and comes with the posters and stuff like that. So if anybody knows about the movie, it definitely looks a lot better now. They did a great restoration job on it. Spent a lot of money and time doing it.
Very cool.
Very, very cool.
Yeah, we'll definitely make sure everyone. I would check that out. Especially when you consider how many movies now you look back and go like, oh man, I wish I had, seen that back then. And there's so many things. Just so much comes out that you don't realize some of the stuff that you do tend to miss out on. And like we said earlier, and like we always say, anything that's mentioned, we'll make sure to, of course, post it when not only the link description, but everywhere else. You guys know it's pretty easy to find us on most places. Twitter and Facebook are both at Fandom Effect. Super simple. I'm assuming you guys can fill in the stuff before that. Me and Devin do both have Twitch, obviously, right now. Bushido Geek for myself, Dreamy_Kong for Devin. You can also check out some of the stuff that I do on Instagram at the.bushido.geek. You can follow different podcasts and cosplay stuff that I'm doing. If you do want to kind of check out some of the other episodes, of course, whatever is your preferred method of listening to a podcast. Whether you're an Apple guy or you're a Spotify guy or for some reason a Pandora person, or if you're a crazy person and you use Alexa. Whatever your platform is, we will be on it. And of course, we'll see you guys on the very next edition of the Fandom Effect podcast, each and every Friday, bright and early. Bonus levels every other Tuesday. And just, and of course, live on the Scene Snobs Network every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Our episodes will also do airing on there. And then occasionally me and Devin will do things like the Royal Rumble special that we did, where we did that live on the network. So just you can also catch our stuff on there, along with a lot of other great shows as well. So you make sure you check those out as well. And a quick shout out to our Patreon members, Ryan, Randy, and James, for helping support the show. If you do want to be like them and take advantage of the ever expanding tiers of a Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/Fandom Effect Podcast and go ahead and help support the show. Devin, anything you want to say to everybody?
I just want to say thank you again, John, for being on our show. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure, guys.
Yeah, John, any final words yourself for everybody out there?
Just keep watching the old movies. The new ones are good too, but there's a lot of good old movies out there that are made in the 80s and 90s that are great films that they're going to be restoring. Hopefully not just mine, but a lot of these other ones too. And I like to get people back in the theater. It's more fun watching them in the theater. But everybody be safe. Wash your hands.
It's a good lesson to end on, everybody. We will see you on the very next edition of the Fandom Effect podcast, and we'll see you guys next time.
Run credits.
Talk to you later, guys.
Bye.
Thanks, man.